So any advice you would give me for stepping out, what would it be?
Uh, well, I always give you advice, and I'm gonna give you more advice. I'm always giving you advice because I'm your parent. So, but the advice I'm gonna give you is this. Being young, you think like, oh, I need somebody. I need to get with somebody. It's cool to be with somebody, right? Be with my guy, my girl. And the truth is, be patient. Be patient. Work on you. Take that time to work on you. Discover who you are. Let God mold you. Become a person that is aware of who they are, what they like, what they dislike, and ask God to build you so that when you do find someone, or when I should say, when someone do come into your life that is from the Lord, that you would have something to offer and they would have something to offer, and it'll be a beautiful union, right? Whereas sometimes when we force our way into relationships, it becomes it becomes something other than what it ought to be, and a lot of times it's just lust and it's physical and things like that. But once all that dries out and it gets old, you're like, I don't even know this person. Really, I don't even like this person, right? Let's say 3-4 years go by, and you don't even like each other. You find out that you don't like this about her or don't like that about him or whatever, right? And so just be patient. Be patient. You have your future ahead of you, as long as God says the same. Work on. You say you want to be, you want to work in labor and delivery, right? And get into the medical field. So do that. Do that. Do that and be passionate about it. And keep your morals. And keep your, and let God lead you. You can go to church Monday through Friday and still struggle, and the reality is we live in a real world, and I understand that. And so the idea is there's going to always be the good versus the bad, the ugly, and the reality is I just have to continue to project that, and hope that through your own experiences, through your own trials and tribulations, that you would wake up to the reality of, oh, I understand what Dad's trying to teach us, or what he was saying. Because sometimes in life, it's like, parents tell their children things, right, to keep them from ending up in prison or dead, right? And the reality is a lot of times they end up in prison. So when they're in jail, right, that voice come back to them, that thought of mom was trying to tell me this, or dad was trying to tell me this, right? And that's their own life experiences that they must go through, but that if they come out, right, it will be a lesson learned, or it'll be something that will ring more true than before, right? So with Christ Muscle, it's preventative measure, but at the same time, it's the reality of having to still sometimes bump your head, So I understand that. Though I teach you about the boys, I teach you about what the boys want, and I teach you guys about, you beautiful girls, right? That, you're going to have guys coming and knocking on your door and to no end. But with that being said, how to conduct yourself, right? Don't fall for that. Don't do. But then the reality is you might fall for it. The reality is you might give in to that temptation. But then the other flip side is that if he doesn't stick around, if he is just using you, those things would then begin to reign true, so that the next time somebody comes around with that same jargon or that same message, that you know who it is, you know what they're trying to do. So you be, so sometimes in life, most of the time, a lot of times, even in the Bible, it says men prosper by others' mistakes, and oftentimes most of us have to make the mistakes in order then to prosper after the fact. And then it's only probably the few that actually look and say, well, I'm not going to do what so-and-so did because I saw the results of that. So I'm going to go a different route. So most of the time people have to do it for themselves to find out, because a lot of times it's like, oh, it's not going to happen to me, or that's not going to happen to me, and the truth is, yeah, it happens to you too. And you'll find out you're not exempt. So my whole thing is, just teach you and to hope that you understand the concept behind Christ Muscle is first, implementing Christ, implementing the morals, the lifestyle, and then Second, try and take care of yourself, your body, and go after whatever dream you're looking to go after, and ask God to go with you.
Why do you do what you do? And like, how does it make you feel inside?
Good question. Why do I do what I do? Why do I do this particularly? I do this because I'm compelled to. Because I asked myself this question before. Why are you? Because let's face it. Like I mentioned earlier, being a Christian is not popular. It's not something that everyone's like, applauding you. Ooh, hey, If I was a rapper, or somebody like that, then it's more applauded, and you get a lot of likes and all this other stuff. But as a Christian, it's not acceptable. I won't say acceptable, but it's not popular. So I'm compelled because I feel like it's inside me, and I have to get it out, so I'm compelled to do that. And then some days I may slack up and then I'm, it's like God kicks me in the butt. It's like, get up, go do this or go do that. You can't, I'll have no peace, unless I'm doing that, unless I'm out there being a light or witnessing or even being a light to someone. I met a young lady last night. It was at Del Taco. I was getting some food. It was pretty late. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And I was waiting because, I ordered 2 Fiesta packs for all my children, all these children. So I ordered 2 Fiesta packs. And so anyway, they told me to go park. And so I went to go park. And I parked off to a distance. So I was waiting there, and this girl walks up. She had headphones on, and she was just rapping. And I thought, okay, what is going on with her, right? And so she come walking past me, and she come right up to the car, and then she started rapping about my car and this and that, and she was using vulgar language and all this and that. And so I was like, wow, okay. So then she started talking to me, and then she started saying. She's a rapper and this things and that the other. But what I found though is that people are out there hurting, and she asked me for some food, and I gave her some food, and I was able to bless her with some money as well. And what I find that when you remove the veneer, the reality is there are a lot of people who've been abandoned, a lot of people who are out there suffering, a lot of people who are in darkness, and they'll appear that they might know what they're doing, or it appears that they're okay, or appears this way or that way. The truth is, we're lonely inside, unless we find hope. Look at the world today, what's going on. A lot of people are depending on the president to do a lot of things. They're depending on, Congress and all these things to make changes, and the truth is, because we're all unfamiliar with this, and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and so that brings a little fear, it brings a little uncertainty. And so I'm compelled to be a real representative of hope, of hope. And I believe that comes through the cross, that comes through Jesus Christ, that comes through knowing God through Christ, that comes through knowing Him, so that when things go down, I can pray. When things happen, I can pray, and I can be sincere, and God can be sincere with me, And so, because I believe God has everything in His hands. He has all power in His hands. And when He'll allow something to happen, it's because He'll allow it to. If He doesn't, it's because He doesn't. So my tool is prayer. And so if I build up on that relationship, no matter what happens, whether it's with a relationship, whether it's with something financial, something health wise, I can take it to prayer. And my whole thing is passing that on to you guys, because you're going to go through things. You're going to go through ups and downs. You're going to go through maybe something financial, something relational. But how do you deal with it? How do you handle it? For some people, they take their lives. For some people, they're never the same. So these are real things. So right now you're not entangled with someone that you can go off into the deep end, but one day you may become entangled with someone, so that if they leave you or do something, it will take a big chunk out of you, and you're no longer the same person, right? So you need something that you can grasp onto, something you need something that will give you the power, the hope, and the ability to see past that and to move to the next step. So that's why I'm compelled by. I'm compelled by being a force of good. I'm compelled by being pleasing in God's eyes. Yeah. because I feel like he's telling me to do this. Yeah.
So 2 or 3 years from now, where do you see Christ Muscle?
That's a good question too, because 8 years ago, it should have been a lot further. But procrastination, and just a little, like I was telling you before, it's not so popular, And so, but it's like, if you ever heard the story of Jonah, Jonah had to go witness in Nineveh to these people that were hard, stiff-necked people. And in fact, he wanted God to destroy them, right? He wanted God to give them what they deserve. So he was trying to go the opposite way, right? Though God was compelling him to go there and witness and preach to these people, right? In which to turn them away from God, destroying them from their sins. And so I, in a way, was feeling like, yeah, it's this good thing that I could represent. It's this good thing I could, promote. But I'm not so excited, because, it wasn't something that will be embraced. But at the same time, I'm so happy that, God has compelled me and compelled me to do that and continue. And so even today, I'm just working on still putting the message out of hope, and truth,
So being a Christian, can you still have fun, versus how other people party and stuff?
That's a good question. But I think so, yeah, because I think fun is really based on the perception of the person that's finding that they're having fun. Because what is fun? For some people, drinking and drinking till they don't know anything is fun, And then for other people, maybe just, taking a road trip, sightseeing is fun. Or somebody maybe hiking through the mountains is fun. So I think it's a question of the matter of the perception, But now if you're asking me, can you sin as a Christian, or as if when you're out there, are you sinning? Maybe that's more the question that I think you're saying. The thing is, as being a Christian, if you say that, you want to live a wholesome life, or one that is pleasing in the eyes of God, or even one that leads to a good life, life that's not full of turmoil and pain and suffering and all these other things, then you would see that those things that we call bad, or like drinking, smoking, and all this other stuff, right? Those things I wouldn't consider fun for me, because I don't find that those things are fun. In fact, I find those things can be addicting, or you become dependent on it, or you need it in which to have fun, or you think you need it to have a good time. And me and my wife often we'll go to Nevada, and we'll go shopping at the mall, have maybe rent one of those nice little rooms, little timeshare type rooms with the kitchenette and everything, and that's fun. That's for me. That's fun. That's a blast. I get in my nice car. God bless me. I'll get in my nice car, get dressed up. That's fine. That's fun with me. I don't have to have, a lot of the other secondary things that other people may consider fun. They may call that boring, right? Which, hey, that's boring to them. But when I have fun, when I'm doing things, I try not to sin in that regard. So I think if anything you do it in a way that you're not sinning. To me that's fun. Because there's no adverse effects of that. So if anything, it's positive. It's all positive. So
how would we share what Christ Muscle is about to our friends, because teenagers and stuff?
Good question. I think you just share it, because I believe that the Spirit of God has a way of transcending between any age or any person, right? Regardless whether you're a teenager or even an older person, right? So just be truthful, because you never know who's dealing with what, So in other words, let your light shine, So Christ Muscle really is about letting your light shine, You know, it's a way to interject Christ. It's a way to interject, doing good, or empowering others, giving people hope, and that you could do that without even mentioning Christ. You could do that without even mentioning that, and so by mentioning Christ's muscle, it's just, to me, it's just naturally, it just falls in line with just being and doing good things, So it's like if I'm wearing this shirt, someone may be like, "Hey, what does that mean?" Right? It's about working out and living accordingly to Scripture, or just about Jesus Christ. Jesus died for my sins, and that I can have hope, and also I take care of my body. You know what I mean?
What did you think about God when you were like younger? Like, what was your opinion on it?
Okay, my opinion. Well, like I was telling you before, I was raised in church, so I didn't know anything else. But there was a God, and there was this Jesus, and all this stuff, right? But at the same time, I don't think I took it seriously, and I didn't take it to heart because I was just doing me, I had friends, they were talking about this and that. We were doing this and that and the other. And my dad was talking about Jesus, and that just didn't jive, and mainly because it sounded like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't go here, you can't go there. And so it just sounded like a bunch of rules, and boring. It sounded boring. I remember we would go to church on Wednesdays, right? Wednesday nights, right? The middle of the week. I had things to do, but we didn't drug to church, and it just didn't seem fun. But looking back, hindsight, it was the best thing that happened, because in fact, if had not I been in church those times, or even if had not I been exposed to that, I can truly say I likely wouldn't be here. Okay, I'd likely be dead or in jail because I've gotten into something. I mean, think about it. I got into stuff while I was being drugged in church. While I was, being taught, I managed to get into stuff, and could have gotten or ended up in a bad place, right? So if I had more free time to do those things, I think I would have self-destructed a long time ago. So I know friends who are dead today, and died early, because they died at a party, they died at the club, and so it wasn't something I wanted to do, but I'm glad that it happened. Yeah.
Was there ever a time that you felt like, oh, like I didn't need God?
Yeah, it was probably during that time, when you're young and dumb. Yeah, I thought, mainly because I have my parents, and I don't think we as children, we don't really grasp the concept of needing God, because we have what we need, supposedly, because you have a home, right? You have clothes, you have food, you don't sense that you need God, though they're telling you this, right? They're telling you. But with your parents, and what I find now that I'm telling you guys, is that you're going to need God, right? You're going to need the Lord, because you're going to need Him to show you direction. You're going to need Him to direct your path and even provide, right? Because as you get older, and once you find out you're about to be 18, right, you don't really have no help out there. You really don't. And so you have to go out there and compete. You have to go out there and get what you need to get done. And there's a lot of competition, right? You're going to go apply for jobs, and you're not the only one that's applying for that job, right? So why should they hire you versus someone else, right? And you're all applying for the same position. And so I find in these scenarios, you need favor. You need God's favor. You need direction. Is this for me? Lord, is this for me? Maybe this job isn't for me. Maybe I should be looking elsewhere. Maybe, lead me down a different path that's going to be for me. So you need this kind of insight. And so even in the Word of God says, how can a man know which way to go except God directs his steps? So it's like we don't know tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? So how can you prepare for something you don't know what's going to happen, right? It's blind. It's like really acting out in blindness, because you don't really see, but you're doing things as if though it's going to be that way, but you're not sure.
How do you deal with like when you see other women in the gym?
Wow, good question. A good question. Wow, I'm still fighting that battle, man. I'm still fighting. No, I'm kidding. But no, the thing is with women in the gym, you know, of course, there's beautiful women everywhere. It's not just the gym, or there's beautiful women at the store, at the park, wherever you go. If you know, I like women. That's why I married me a wife, right? I got the, you know, Paul says better to marry than burn with lust, right, in your heart. So I found me a wife, right? But nonetheless, there's still going to be women out there, beautiful women out there that you see. And how I deal with it is, Lord help me, Lord. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I had a problem growing up. You know, I had a problem with women. Okay, I was always chasing women, right? And that was one of my downfalls. As a result, I have child support. You know, I had child support, and so that was part of the problem, because I was into girls, right? And as you grow, it don't go away. And even if you get married, it don't go away, right? But what happens is I think you grow into a point, a place of knowledge and understanding, right? I'm not going to have every woman, even though I may want every woman that I want. I can't have every woman that I want, right? It's just not possible, right? And so what I find that is God says He'll bless you with your own woman, your own person, right? That you're supposed to be with. And though you will find that temptation try to come in to maybe look or even be with someone on the side, that's just what it is, temptation. And it's a temptation that will likely break up what you have, or even cause for your downfall. You know, I know some relationships or some situations where that happened. You know, there was marital infidelity, right? And so it broke up the whole family, right? And therefore now you have the kids are affected, the persons are affected, and you say why? Because of when you look at it, it was lust. It was something that that came in, and that you allowed to overtake you, or you fell for, and it calls for your family's downfall, your downfall. And so how I deal with it is I see it for what it is, right? I see it for what it is. So any woman I see at the gym, or any person I see that look good and this and that, I notice it. I'm not a robot, right? I'm not some weirdo, right, that don't see stuff. I notice it, but I also, and I think God gave me the eyes to see past that. You know, it's like this. If I saw that getting into this car, right, going down the street was going to be my last ride, right, I wouldn't get in that car, right, because I would run the opposite direction, correct? Because I would see that this is my last ride, and I'm gonna get into an accident down the road, right, and it's going to take my life. So I would run from that. Or if I saw that, hey, if I got with this person, like I know a situation where a girl got with a guy, and the guy ended up killing this girl, right? Now, in the beginning, did she know that guy was going to take her life? No. She thought he was her knight in shining armor, right? And she was in love and this and that and the other. But 3-4 years later, he took her life. Now, if she knew that, do you think she would have got with that guy? No, she would have ran. As soon as she saw his face, she would have ran the other direction, correct? So I think when it comes to this kind of thing, God allows me to see past the obvious, right? So you might see a girl, she look good, she looks like, you know, the type of woman you would date or want to be with. But in my situation, it wouldn't work, you know, because of my situation. I'm married, I have kids and so forth and so on, and it wouldn't work, right? So for me to force that or try to do something that's contrary would just be me ruining myself or leading to my own downfall, you see. And so I think you have to have the ability, and that comes from knowing God, it comes from knowing the Word, it comes from knowing Scripture, basically having the ability to foresee things or to see it for what it is. You understand? Not the glamour, not the facade, but to see it exactly for what it is. You know?
So let me ask you a question. So what would you say to teenagers or younger kids that have separate homes and they have to go back and forth, and their parents are the opposite of each other, and they hear one thing from another parent, hear the other, like something else from the other parent? Like, what would you say? Like,
well, first of all, I know being in that situation myself, that it's a hard thing, because first of all, you have the child that's in this situation. And it's not really the parents, it's the child that suffers, right? Because they don't understand what's going on. You know, you have two parents that fell out or have their differences. And so the kids are usually the ones in the middle, going between both parents, because we love you. And so we're trying our best to still support and take care of you. But at the same time, you might have different values here and a different value system there. So your question is, which value, what would I tell a child that's in that situation? Is follow your heart, because you know what, inside of us, we know right from wrong. In fact, the word tells us, God's word tells us that God put it in us, right? We know. It's like when you do something wrong, you usually feel bad about it, or you usually get convicted about it. When you do something good, you feel good about it, and it comes natural, right? So when you have a parent that's over here, now though they might be boring, or they might, it may not be as exciting, or they may not let you do this and that and the other, you still know what they're telling you is for your own good, or you know what they're telling you is right. So in that case, follow your conscience. Follow your conscience. Because when you follow your conscience, you're going to always be led in the right place, because God is close to your conscience, And oftentimes we don't want to follow our conscience, because sometimes our conscience leads us to, sometimes it seems like a boring place, right? But in all reality, your conscience leads you to a safer place. It leads you to safety, okay? And that's where usually God is, and that's where safety is, and that's where help is, And it's when you kind of venture off into the other side, you find danger, you find deception, you find, oh, I didn't know this and I didn't know that was going to happen, and all these other things. So that's the disobedient side of us that we usually tend to a lot of the times, But we find out there's a lot of mistakes there, a lot of wishes, I wish I didn't do's there, So I would tell a person that's of a ripe age, or someone that's mature, to follow your conscience, follow, regardless what choice that parent is making or has made, follow your conscience as you're growing up and you're beginning to make your own choices,
so I would say having having nice cars and a big house and a big family, how do you not fall off? Like, how do you stay on track?
Well, first of all, good question. The thing with that is, God gives us things to enjoy, right? And I think when you understand and have a foundation, then all that stuff has its proper place, right? So you don't use your car, your nice fancy car, to go get a girl, and your status to go get, to take advantage of somebody, right? Especially if you're married and all that other stuff. And not a lot of that happens. It happens because it's part of our fleshly nature. But, I know what it is to have slept on the floor. We starting off, me and my wife slept on the floor, and you guys slept on the floor, and we were struggling to buy beds and things like that, car seats and things like that. And I drove a car that I didn't particularly like at the time for a long time, but it was for the family. It got us where we wanted to go, and I enjoyed that part of it. I was blessed to get it. My dad had blessed me with it, and it got us to where we wanted to go. It took care of the needs, right? And it, we were able to go out at times to movies and things like that together. And it met the needs. So I cherish those times. I cherish those moments. And it's not about when God bless you with more, even if God exalts you even higher, that you then go backwards, but rather you become more in with gratitude, and thanks. you know, and don't utilize it, because realize you can always fall off. You know, you can always fall off. And there's many stories out there, Skid Row and LA and all type of places, people who have had a lot of things and experienced a lot of good things, and today they're living in the streets. Well, what happened? Those things came in and took them away, you know, because they allowed those things to come in and miscue the reality that, you know, God can give you something today or bless you, and you use that for wrong, or you use that to manipulate and things like that, and it can easily be taken away, you know, and then you just be a has-been, somebody who had that, used to be, you know, and that doesn't matter at that point. So I take everything with a grain of salt. I enjoy everything God gives me, and I realize one thing: this life right here we have is one life, and once it's over, it's up, you know. And so I enjoy everything God gives me, and I enjoy it to the fullest. Whether he allowed me to have it today and take it tomorrow, I enjoy it.
If you have a dream, do not ever give up on your dream. I don't care how far away it may look. I don't care. If God calls you to it, you're going to succeed at it. You just have to keep going by faith and do not give up.
Faith, keep going. Keep going. Trust in God.
I still can't get over you died for me. When I think about it, God, I wanna cry. When you took that cross and you walked for me, you thought about my pain and you ain't stopped. So you can never tell me Jesus is a lie. In my living room at 15, I seen it with my eyes. Now your love surrounds me, now I feel it deep inside. Since I found you, I don't want nothing in this life. You the only one I want. I done seen the world, I'm done with that, cause you the one I want. I ain't been the same since you came and filled me with your love. You ain't never let me down, God, I'm not caught up above. You ain't never changed, don't know. God, I put my trust in you, God. Change gon' come. You know God of Joseph, I know change gon' come. You ain't never let me down, that's why my faith so strong. God, you the reason why I'm still alive. Many times I try to give up, but God, I'm still alive. I seen a lot, but God, I'm still alive. That's why I cry when I think about you. You took your life, so I stay alive.